What's the wildest thing a you up text has led to? Got a call from a friend asking if I wanted to hang out with him and a mutual friend. We went to a jazz bar in downtown Houston. While we were there, mutual friend got a call from a girl who was tending bar at another place and said it was slow and we should come hang out. We ended up going to the barrio to little shack that when the site opened like a garage door it became a Tejono bar. When we walked in I could hear someone say, "What are these white boys doing here?" We walked up to the bar to meet mutual friend's friend and she took him out onto the dance floor. Her mom was there hanging out and took my other friend out onto the dance floor, leaving me alone at the bar. While I was standing there, a guy who looked like he could be cast as Mexican gangster in a movie walks up and stood inches from me and looked me up and down like he wanted to start something. Thinking quickly, I stuck out my hand and said, "What's up, buddy?" Dude shook my hand, gave me a hug and was my best friend for the rest of the night. One you up text led to a midnight pizza hunt, getting lost, finding a speakeasy, and meeting a guy named Larry who claims he met Beyonce's cousin. Best bad decision ever. Not a text, but woken up in the barracks overseas by a good friend and fellow soldier. He asked if I wanted to go break into another country's encampment and steal their flag. This was early night time, like people were still working early. So we did. We ran like 10 miles in the night, dodging military personnel who were driving by. Broke into the camp, which was difficult, then had to break the flagpole's lock system and cut the flag down. 10 miles back. Our guards were still guarding the entry. We just blended in with some vehicles that were gaining entry. We just walked right in. Insane. Still the craziest thing I've done. Meeting my wife. I had fallen asleep and got a text from a girl that I had been casually seeing. She and some friends were drunk at a party and needed a ride. I reluctantly got up out of bed, got dressed and went to pick them up. When they piled into the backseat, I looked back to see who had gotten in the car and my future wife and I locked eyes. That was 14 years ago. When I was 14, I was about to fall asleep and a classmate I was acquaintances with texted me and asked if I was awake. I told him I was and asked what was up. He proceeded to invite me to come to his house and play board games with him and his parents. From that night on, he became my best friend and about a decade later we are still best friends. I moved abroad after we graduated high school, but I still visit him whenever I visit our hometown, and he also came to visit me in my new country of residence. We even both met our current partners through each other. I can't begin to imagine how differently my life would have played out if I never responded to his text that night. Got the text from a buddy that he needed help at his house and it was urgent. Thought maybe they had a flood from a burst pipe or something like that. Nope. Turns out his wife fell off the sobriety wagon hard. They had a huge fight. Cops and EMS was called. She was transported to hospital for a mental health evaluation. House is a wreck. Not like from the argument, but you can tell it has been falling apart for weeks. Helped wake their 2 kids to get them ready to go stay at a family member's house several hours away. All while I'm making sure he's not about to have an emotional breakdown as well. Another friend came over to watch the kids until the family got there. During this time the hospital deemed the wife very unstable, but they didn't have the proper unit for her, so she got transported to a facility, heavily sedated due to her being hostile and having suicidal ideation, a couple hours away. Drove my buddy there so he could take her personal items. We thought we would be there a while, but basically the facility said there was nothing we could do there and it would be best if he went home. Drove back to his house. I figured it wasn't a good idea to leave him alone in that state. He finally broke down. Told me everything that had been happening the past couple months. We started to clean up the house, then passed out after the long night. I ended up taking the rest of the week off to help him out and make sure he was good mentally. They're long divorced now. He along with the kids are in a good place. Her not so much, but it is what it is there. Check on your friends often. Edit. Thanks for the love everyone. It's heartbreaking seeing people say they don't have a support system though. Best we can do is be that someone for anyone if needed. A really sad attempt at a booty call where I thankfully got a case of whiskey Big Dig and couldn't get it up. And I say thankfully because I found out the reason she initiated said booty call was that she was trying to get me to get her pregnant without me realizing, so she could trap me. I don't remember too much about the encounter, but I do remember her trying to convince me to go in raw. Had to have been around 2010-11, 3 AM in college. After a few hours at the local bar, I got a text from the cute girl in my lit class that I had been crushing on, who was also at said bar, to come to her place and hook up. She lived like 3 buildings away in our complex, so I got up and stumbled over to her place. Had some fun sexy times, and then we both passed out for a few hours to be awoken by her roommates loudly announcing it was turtle race day. I then got to watch 4 turtles race through a playing card maze and then had more sexy times and went home lol. In my early 20s, I had a close lady friend. She was the sister of a friend. The friend and I grew apart, but I started chatting with his sister and later, texting. This was before phones had full keyboards. We had sex twice before we figured out we weren't really compatible romantically but remained close friends. Years later, one night, she texts me about how she agreed to do now with her boyfriend the next time he came over. She had never done it before and started freaking out that she wouldn't be able to go through with it, or would embarrass herself, in general. I'm half asleep and kinda unfiltered at the time, so I said, jokingly at the time, that if she wanted to practice, she could come over anytime she wanted. I didn't get a response. It was late. I expected she fell asleep or whatever. So I go back to B. 20 minutes later, she's knocking on my door with lube she picked up on the way over. I was staying away from family and friends in a different city and was relatively new to the city. A day before my 26th birthday, I told my friends to not call me at midnight as I wouldn't be able to answer and I wanted to sleep because I had a long week at work. Secretly, I was also missing all my people and hoping they don't listen to my advice. My friends decided to WhatsApp me 5 minutes before midnight, "Are you up?" and I said yes, but also told them that I'll be going to sleep soon. I suddenly hear my doorbell ring at that time and 2 of my closest buds were there at my doorstep. They had flown from a different city to wish me. For the first time in 15 years of knowing them, I broke down and hugged them. We went to a neighborhood bar and what a wild night it was, with one of the tables where a group of ladies were celebrating their friend's bachelorette. Nothing tops that experience. Beautiful core memory. Got the text at 2 AM. Drove over to help safely capture and relocate a massive wolf spider. Got cuddles. Best friend text me around 9 PM but I was feeling antisocial like always and didn't respond. He was having a bad day and just wanted to hang with his buddy. An hour later he wrapped his truck around a tree and died because he was angrily speeding. Maybe if I responded I would have been with him and told him to slow down. I'll regret it for the rest of my life. Started yapping with a girl on Tinder at 4 AM. Offered to grab her a coffee from the gas station and a view of the sunrise. 6 years later we have a kid now. I travel for work so we go all over the country on family road trips. This predates texting. So when I was a teenager, my dad busted me with a few hits of acid. Before he took them, I swapped out a few of them with just paper, but he got 1 or 2 real ones. Fast FWD a few months. I was looking in my dad's nightstand to scavenge some change for cigs, and just laying there in the penners was what really looked like a hit of acid. I popped it in my mouth and sure enough it was real, so I stayed up all night and just had fun tripping solo. I was still up at like 7 AM, and called my friend, who also happened to still be up. "You up, Dart?" He said let's go over to this girl's house, so I said sure. Ended up marrying her and having a kid together, although we divorced after a few years. For me it was a wanna play some card game. That lead to playing said card game and drinking. Then a board game and more drinking. Then a drinking card game. Then some Drew Gus. Then walking around outside at 11 PM while drinking. Then one of us ducking up his leg, not hospital level, just weeks of hurting level, while running down a frozen hill. Followed by breaking into someone's yard to jump on their trampoline at 2 AM. A bit over 9 years ago my best friend Mike hit me up to go to the bar. He almost never drank. When I got there, He was with his roommate, whom I had met about a month prior. I found her cute, but I kinda ignored her existence, as I'm not about to try to hit on my best friend's roommates. Apparently she kept asking about me and when I was gonna hang out next. So I go to the bar to hang out with him, and he ditches both of us. His logic was, she's into Seth, and Seth is normally into girls that look like her, may as well get it out of their system so things can go back to normal. Her and I were married a bit over 6 years ago, and he was our officiant. His "you up to get me out" drinking led to me connecting with the woman who I plan on spending the rest of my life with. Received a text from a buddy who said he needed help because his ex was going crazy, so I ran over. Turns out it was his ex who took his phone and ran and hid. Ended up knocking my buddy out and ran her and her 2 kids to the car for safety since he was being physical. He ran out and tried grabbing one of the kids, so I took him by his shirt and punched him square in the face, knocking him out again. Told her if she needed someone to talk to, just to message me. She's been my wife for 2 years now and I no longer talk to that buddy. Lived in London for a couple of months for an internship. My roommate called me and asked what I'm doing because he met a couple of girls and were out at the Hawley Arms in Camden. Met up with them and went to the dodgiest house I've ever been into to score some coke. I mean dudes with face tattoos and gums on the table type stuff, but actually really nice guys. Afterwards we took a cab to Hempstead to a house party in the nicest mansion I've ever been in. We weren't invited but a couple of people at the Hawley took us with them. Hooked up with one of the girls until the house owner stormed in and made a huge scene while a few uninvited randos stuck in her bedroom. We argued for a while until tempers cooled down and had a nice time afterwards. My roommate and I were broke as duck and couldn't afford a cab so we went home by foot for 2 hours. My old downstairs neighbor who I used to hang out with a lot texted me past midnight asking if I was still awake. He and I would always get together to smoke and listen to music or watch TV. We had a fling at one point that went nowhere, so I wasn't sure what he wanted so late. It turns out he had gotten into an accident while on his street scooter. He was badly hurt and needed help. He tried to avoid running over a cat that had run out in front of him while driving around and broke hard, sending himself flying. I found him on the side of the road and took him to the hospital. He had broken both his wrists and ended up needing surgery. We ended up drifting apart and I moved away. We didn't keep in touch but hoping the dude is doing well. Walked to her house to just chat through life until about 7 AM. As I walked back through the park on my way home came across a guy just passed out in the middle of the path. Now to do but call an ambulance so did that and tried to remember my basic first aid. Guy came back round but the paramedics were having none of him saying he'd walk back to his house. There's no way you pass out in a park on a chill spring morning for a good while and are just fine after. Decided not to go out with my friends on Halloween freshman year of college. Get a text at like 1 to 2 AM about how they've lost one of the guys that went out and how they're worried he's going to die as it was below freezing and he went out in a referee costume and shorts. The guy who got lost had given his phone to one of the guys as he was afraid he would call an ex-girlfriend, who he ended up marrying. Haha. Looking back, we should have called the police 100%. Instead, we all searched across campus on foot and by car for a couple hours before we got a call from his cell phone. Apparently he had wandered off to a house where his brother used to live, and the current tenant of that place was kind enough to invite him inside and ask if he remembered any phone numbers. That lady saved his life for sure that night. I was about 22 and mate messaged me that he was in a club not far from where I lived. I didn't want to go and eventually was convinced with girls outnumber guys 2 to 1. Drove there. Got a bit wasted and decided to drive home. As I left I decided I wanted McDonald's, so pulled the handbrake at an intersection and did a 180. In my head, it was perfect. I pulled into McDonald's drive-thru, placed my order. And that's when a cop car blocked my way. They cancelled my order. Asked to search my car, I let them. Said they don't even need to breathalyze me as they can tell I'm drunk. I told them they just have to ask and I'll tell them I'm drunk. They told me I'm under arrest and needed to go to the station. I didn't resist and just kept joking with them and being funny. These cops ended up driving me home, giving me their numbers and told me to never drive like that again, and to call if I need help. They left with my driver's license and I needed to chase them down to get it back. It was a fun night.